Hello and welcome to this second video of my post-study series, which will be 3 videos in total. And yeah, to continue from where we last left off in the first video, this time we're going to focus on some different references and different kinds of angles and poses, just to get a whole variety and learn as much as we can. Last time the first pose sheet, the references were with photographs from above, and this time the photographs are from below. You can see that for all of them the feet and the legs are bigger while the head is small, and it's just the other way around from above, and makes sense, basic perspective, but that's for the first sheet. You can see that the process I went with was a sketch from reference once again, and then I tied down the sketch. When tying down the sketch, I referenced my sketch layer. Then I went to the clothing folds again, because I really want to focus on the clothing as well, not just the outline and silhouette of the person. And lastly, I went to the line art, and I combined the clothes and sketch for this to create this character almost without any hair. Now on the second sheet there were people who were sitting on a chair or on objects in general, and the poses, some of them are more dynamic than others, but in general they are all sitting. And I started with the sketch from reference again, then I tied down the sketch, and the sketch that I tied down looked almost like line art. Next I did the folds of the clothes again, and lastly the line art with the clothes and sketch combined, so the process is just the same as before on the previous sheet. For the fold studies I did on this, I didn't exactly copy the reference. Instead I just focused on how the clothes would fall and wrap around the body in general. It was to generally show what loose clothing would look like on this pose and with these movements. And with these clothes, depending on the fabric and the size and the shape of the clothes, the amount of folds and how big or small they are definitely changes. And that's why I just wanted to, instead of focusing on what is the person in this reference picture wearing and how do the folds look exactly, I just wanted to get the overall idea that if I did put some kind of clothing on the character myself, where would I put the clothes, and then depending on what kind of material and clothing I would choose, the overall amount and so on would change. But I just wanted to get the general idea where the folds would be. Where I also didn't exactly copy from the reference was with the proportions. With the first sketch I wanted to get the overall proportions correctly, and this was really easy because the image next to it was the same size. So I did draw the sketch in the same size as the reference image, and this makes it really easy to just check if your proportions are correct. But if you want more of a challenge, then having the size of your reference being different from what size you are drawing definitely helps. And what you can also do to make it even a little more challenging is to mirror your reference or just draw the whole image mirrored. So I recently tried this out with 2 images of just a character I really like, and I realized that when you try to draw outlines, you have to imagine, this line goes from right to left, so if I draw it now I have to draw it from left to right. So you just have to really think about what kind of shape does this line form and how do I draw it in the mirrored way. So it's really interesting. It's definitely a cool thing to try out, but when you do it for a long time it can be kind of exhausting on your brain. And for the last reference sheet for this video, I went basically with the same process as I went with the other ones before. So in the first video I talked about that I would use different approaches to go about studying from these references, but in this video you can see that I found an approach that I really liked, so I just stick with it for for these free sheets, and I'm generally a person that I like it to develop a system whenever I can. So even with my illustrations, I really like to go with first sketch, then line art, then flat colors, then a shading, and maybe some highlights or just details in the end. And I'm just that kind of person. That's also why I think I'm a person who prefers to do line art and not very painterly style, because then I always have these steps I can go through. I just really like it when I have a plan I can follow. And even if exploring is important, and in the beginning especially, you should first explore different options you have, especially with drawing and painting, to just learn different things, because then you can choose from these things and then you can go with the approach you like. And for these post studies I kind of went through this process, because I started with, for example, in the first character sheet, you can see it in the first video, I did a stylized proportion after I did this realistic proportions of the people. Afterwards I just went with kind of stylized proportions straight away, because I realized that for me with these post studies, it's not about getting every little anatomic proportion correct. It was more about just making the person I drew do the same pose as the person in reference, and it looking cohesive, and overall that it just made sense, that I understood how the person was moving in the picture, or what the body parts looked like from the different angles. And that's it with studying from reference. You just look at the reference and you can copy it, but you can also just take something from it and then put it into your own thing, your own style. With these post studies, there's definitely a lot of copying involved. There are so many ways you can go about studying from a reference. You can study various things, so you just have to decide what you want to focus on. For example, you can focus on the anatomy, the gesture, the color, the lighting, the shading, or just the clothing in general. So whatever you want to improve on, I recommend you to choose this aspect and then get the references you need for it. So maybe you want to even focus on a texture like wood or something, then you can also just find pictures of a tree or general wood patterns, and you can just study it. What's important is just that whatever you want to learn, you use some references for it, because otherwise you have to have some kind of reference at first to generally learn about something. I mean, you wouldn't even want to learn about wood if you didn't knew it existed. So everything you want to draw and stylize, just it comes from somewhere. And even if it's just a show and you want to draw trees like they look in the show, then you can get a picture of how the trees look like in a show and just draw them like that. Overall, it's always good to know what the things look like in reality, because every stylized version you see out there is based off of reality after all, because without the foundations of reality we wouldn't be able to stylize all the things and so on. What I just want to say is just get the references you need when you want to learn about drawing something new, or drawing or painting, maybe light or color. Then you can focus on a reference that has this kind of lightning or color in it, and you can learn a lot from it. And that's it for this second video. I hope you could learn something from this again, or just had a good time and enjoyed watching me draw. So if you like this video, you can check out the first one, or stay tuned for the third one. That's gonna be the last one. And also consider subscribing if you just generally like my content. It would make my day, and I hope you'll have a great day. Goodbye.